So I want to explain an exercise that I took out of my book about improvisation, and I think it's a really very good exercise to improve your musical qualities in general. It is basically like the kids game I pack my bag and in it I put. And I'm pretty sure most of you know this game, but for those who don't, it goes like this. Somebody says, I'm packing my bag, and I put in, let's say, a pair of socks. And then the next person says, I'm packing my bag, and I put in a pair of socks and a baseball cap. And then the next person has to repeat the first and the second, and then put in something he likes or she likes. The only difference is we make it with music, of course, and right now I want to do this exercise alone. You can also do it as a partner exercise, and it's a lot of fun, but to keep it simple, I want to start with this exercise that you can do solo by yourself. It's really simple to explain this exercise, but I think it's not so easy to actually do it. The good thing is you don't have to be very advanced to do it, but you can. I think I do this exercise a lot with all of my improvisation students, and I think you can do it as a beginner, but also as an advanced player, and everyone benefits from it. The reason I think this exercise is really very helpful is most of the times, or if you're not a super advanced player, most of the time I would say people who improvise are under a certain amount of stress and also tend to do things they have trained for a long time, so the body knows what to do. And that means basically for all instruments, it doesn't matter what instrument you play, that means you would probably play a lick or a certain phrase that you at one point learned, or you would tend to use a scale and play that, maybe with a pattern, or you would use a phrase from another solo, or you would use a exercise, a finger exercise that your teacher or the internet showed to you. And then when you play that, you would go like, oh, what could I do next? And you would jump to the next lick or phrase or exercise. And then, oh, what could I do next? You jump to the next lick, phrase or exercise. And that is not entirely wrong, but in my opinion doesn't make the best solo. And it is also a reason why a lot of not so advanced players sound very similar and not very thrilling. That doesn't mean that these people are bad players or musicians. It just means they haven't learned to think or hear in the future, but also in the past. This is very important. Think of it like this. We all know the alphabet. If I tell you to name me the alphabet, you would probably go like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. You wouldn't start to the middle and then jump to the front and then go 2 further and then go 15 further and 3 back and so. That would be confusing for you as the person who explains or tells the alphabet, but also for the listener. If I want to explain something, let's say, if I want to explain something, I would say, if I want to explain something. I would not say, explain wanna something I if, because it's confusing, right? You probably all heard the analogy of music and speech. So like a note is a letter and a motive, or a lick is something like a word, and a bigger phrase is a sentence, or so on. And that makes a lot of sense. People want to listen to your music and they don't want to get confused. So it's better to say, if I want to explain something, and if I want to do that, then I would make it in a logical order and I don't would juggle the words around. So the same analogy can be used for making music, and in this case for improvisation. If you play a phrase and then jump just to any other phrase, and then jump just to any other phrase, and any other phrase, and any other phrase, and so on, then your alphabet wouldn't make any sense and your story wouldn't as well. And that is confusing for you as a player, and it's tiring for the listener, and the people are not having fun listening to your making music or your solo. So what you would do is you would play a phrase and then think to the future. What could I do next? What would make sense after this? And then you think to the future, but you also think to the past. What did I just do? And what would make sense in the future? And then your solo starts to make more sense. And that is what this exercise is about. So to give you an example, in musical terms, it would probably look like this. I play a phrase, and like I said in the beginning, it doesn't matter what kind of level you are. Keep it simple is a good idea to start with, but you don't have to. If you want to try out something more challenging, then just go for it. I would say use a phrase which is really short, really simple, but also like catchy. It doesn't have to be the best phrase that ever has been played, but it would be a good idea to play something that you also like. So you play a short phrase and you make a pause. Right now, the way I have written it down, it looks as if it would be a piece of music, but it's not. It's actually not in time, and you can go back and forth because that's the way this lesson should work. So you pack your bag. That means you put in like these two notes. Then you make a pause. Go back. Think about your notes that you played, and think also about what would sound good afterwards. If you cannot imagine that, then it's not a problem to try it. Like I said, it is not in real time. You can take as much time as you want to. So this is pretty much free in time. If you found a time like I did in my phrase, it is important that you keep that. But unless you haven't found a new part, you can go back and forth and try stuff out until you find something you think will be fitting after the last notes that you played. Then you make a pause, you go back, You play the first notes, you play the second phrase that you put after your first notes, and then you think of something that will be fitting afterwards. If you cannot imagine something, like I said, just try a few notes and see what you like. The important thing is, if you did find something, stick with it. Afterwards, you make a break. You try to remember everything you put into your bag. That means going back, playing the first note, the second and the third, and then thinking about what you could do after that, and that would be fitting, considering the notes you played before. And that is what I mean. And what I want to show with this exercise, and what I think is really very, very helpful. Taking your time to think musically about the notes you can play next, but also the notes you played before. Everything you put into your bag should make some kind of sense and should less be licks and exercises, more notes that in the end would give a nice melody. As I mentioned, it is actually not very difficult to explain this exercise. It is also possible to do it on every level. You can do it as a complete beginner and you can do it as an advanced player. A lot of students that I teach have never thought or tried something like that. and benefited a lot by it. I also think that after quite some time of putting more notes and more notes to your melody, it's also a good exercise for your brain. Of course, in reality, we would not, if we play a solo that goes like any number of bars, 15 chords or something like that, we would not most likely have to remember all the notes we played in the solo. But what we should do, and what I think should be more focused on, is if you play something, then you're not just playing right now in the moment. You have played something before and you will play something afterwards. And all of that gives your solo, gives your melody, gives your story. And if your story doesn't make any sense, it is not enjoyable to listen to. And therefore, I think most players will benefit a lot by trying out this exercise. I hope I could make clear what I mean, and I hope you have fun with this exercise. Try it and let me know in the comments if I made myself clear by explaining the exercise and if you liked it.